Okay, week in review, 9/26/2022. We're going to kick it off with going through comments from last week. Hi, Dave. I wanted to give an update about Adam training. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. I did a couple workouts on the platform this week, and it was truly amazing and fun. This is exactly the online platform people need. People seem to be asking for. It's just like attending a CrossFit class. I even felt like I got coaching and learned a ton, even though it's pre-recorded. I love that I could fast forward when I felt I didn't a certain part of the warm-up. The athletes workout on the set totally pushed me. CrossFit should partner with RPM training on this. The community leaderboard is super cool too. Pat Barber, RPM, very cool. Congrats on the success you're having with this. Justin, is there any possibility that you'd ever write an autobiographical book? So many people, myself included, are so intrigued by you and your life, both in and out of the military, your connection with CrossFit's origins, and so much more. If you ever do, I'd love to sign copy. I've been involved in CrossFit since 2010 and it's changed my life. So to wrap this up, I just want to say thank you and Greg for what you guys created. I don't know. I wrote that one book a few years ago on programming the games that year. I don't remember what year it was, but I don't know if I'm going to ever write an autobiography. I don't know. Eric Utley, you've mentioned Monte Cristo a few times. I read that book when I was around 17, and it was so good that I stayed up all night and finished in under 24 hours. Awesome book. Wow, that's a hell of a feat. Good job, Eric, to read Count of Monte Cristo in under 24 hours. I highly recommend that book to anyone interested in reading a more epic. You didn't read the abridged version, did you? But anyways, I highly recommend that to anyone interested in reading one of the epic classics. And don't read the abridged version. PMI Premium Services. First, thank you for doing these videos. Second, how did you become a Dolphins fan? Lastly, if you had the power, what 2 or 3 things would you change or add to make CrossFit better? 2 or 3 things. Well, definitely I think we should bring the journal back. That would be one. How did I become a Dolphins fan? So in 84, 85, the Dolphins played the 49ers in the Super Bowl at Stanford Stadium. And at the time, I was 6 or 7. My dad went to the game since it was a few hours away from where we lived. We might have actually even lived in San Jose at the time. And when my dad was at the game, I turned on the TV to see him in the stands. I was a kid. I wasn't a football fan at the time. I had no idea I would never be able to spot my dad in the stands at the Super Bowl. But while watching the game, I started cheering for the team in teal because I really liked the colors of their uniforms at that time as a 6 or 7-year-old. So from that moment on, I became a Dolphins fan, and then I became a diehard Reno fan, and I've followed them since. And I have been basically following a losing team since until this year. They're doing pretty good, 3-0, good start. So that's the history of how I became a Dolphins fan. Sam Smith, when you did testing for the games, did you record it? If so, would you upload any of these testing videos? Also, were there any occasions when an athlete's time in testing would have won the event of the game? I recorded a lot of them. I didn't record all of them. CrossFit also recorded a lot of them. I have released little videos before. Actually, that reminds me, I have one that I want to release soon from a few years ago of testing. There were occasions when athletes in testing would have won the event at the games. I think Julian's time on the deadlift and kettlebell workout would have won that event at the games. And there's a few others, but for the most part, at the games, the times were better than in testing. Frank from Monterey, yes to the affiliate management and performance tracking software. Emailed Rose about this at one point prior to opening up a gym. I was in IT for 14 years, would gladly help with that. Chris Benkovich, where do you post, advertise the events you're putting together? Well, for the shooting events, I sometimes talk about them on my Instagram, my shooting Instagram, TDC Hunts. And there's also a website for all shooting competitions called Practice Score. So go there, and CrossFit Ranch is on there. Best news of the week update was rain in Northern California. That was pretty cool, yes. Is there any limit to the number of affiliates a single entity can own? Not anymore, but in the past there was, but I'm pretty sure it's open now. Are there any CrossFit gyms in Puerto Rico? If so, is CrossFit having any fund drive to help them out? They've been through a lot with Hurricane Maria in 2017 and now Hurricane Fiona. There are multiple gyms in CrossFit in Puerto Rico. I don't know if there's currently any fundraiser to help them out. Spencer Rowell, may have already been asked, but are you looking at any tactical games? No, I don't compete in the tactical games. I actually did a video on it. You can find it on YouTube. where I talk about why I don't. But I really like what they're doing. I like the guys involved. I like Hefner and how he's competing and winning, which is, come on, guys. Frankly, it's loaded. It's a fitness thing. It's a fitness test with some shooting. I know, everyone's all blown away by how he's crossed over into the shooting world and dominated that, but it's mostly fitness, and that's why he's winning with some shooting. But good job, Jacob. But anyways, I like that they're exposing people. And let me say this about Jacob: he's come a long fucking way. When I watched where he was shooting when he first got involved, to the level he's shooting at now, it's very impressive. And he's putting the time in. So the dry firing and the live fire, it's the perfect combo to have success. And he knows how to train, and he's dedicated, and he has the right mindset. So he's doing great. But I'd like to. Here's where I'd really be impressed, is if he had that same shooting success in, winning nationals and stuff in tactical games, in USPSA, or in 3-gun, or in long rifle, where it's just the shooting discipline. But that would take years and years of shooting for him to hit that level of success. But yes, I do like tactical games. They're just not for me. Shannon S. Push Press does both class reservations and workout tracking. The company employs owned over 25 affiliates themselves, and they have a few games athletes on staff. What do you think about the High Rocks documentary? I don't know what that is. John Woods, full weekend, what did you eat? I don't remember what I ate last weekend. I think I ate pretty normal. Ryan Jackson, dude, take a nap, freaking busy. And then final, Thibaud Smirko. As a follow-up to my question from last week on combined tracking and reservation capabilities in one app, what is the main bottleneck at HQ to making this happen? Follow-up points. These apps already exist. It should just be about combining. Competitors such as F45 are already doing this, and it seems really great. Well, there's been a lot of change and transition and leadership in the past 6 months to a year. There's, making big decisions on something like this takes time. And so that is the comment section for now. So last week I went to Josh Gallegos hit me up, and he said that the WWE was coming into town. Seth Rollins and Josh, they were going to have a show at San Jose. And he's whenever they're in town, Josh invites me. And so I went up and watched the WWE show, which was super cool. I've been friends with Colby, Seth Rollins, and Josh for a number of years. Been to a handful of shows. Seth Rollins has come to the games a number of times, and he's even been to open announcements. And he's an avid CrossFitter. He's really fit. And so afterwards, we went backstage and hung out with him for a few minutes. What's really cool, so he's a CrossFitter. Well, he was a wrestler, is a pro wrestler, then found CrossFit and started training with it, loves CrossFit. And pretty much whenever he travels the country for the WWE shows, he drops in at boxes and works out. And they also, I think they have an online programming program. Maybe it's called I forgot what it's called, Dead Boys or something like that. So Josh and Seth Rollins have an online programming that they offer. But also at that WWE event, the female champion was there, and she was a prior regionals competitor. So the WWE actually went to, I think I heard it was Wadapalooza, saw her, and then approached her and recruited her. And now she's one of the female champs in WWE. So it's super cool to see the crossover with CrossFit, from having existing stars jump into CrossFit, and then also pulling people from our sport into their sport and making them stars. So cool event, good seeing them all. I didn't talk to that lady, but I just heard her story, so that's pretty cool. Tuesday, I had an affiliate call with a number of affiliates from all across the country, and we talked about a variety of things, but there's one affiliate that stood out to me, and it's Tiltshift CrossFit. So they are in Seattle, and she shared her story, and I actually asked her to email me about it, and then if I could share it, because it's pretty unique. It's a model, actually, I don't know if it's more common. If it's common, let me know, but I have not seen it in all the years I've been traveling the country and world visiting different CrossFit gyms. But basically, they have a sliding membership rate based off of the individual salary, how much money they make. And so here's their model. Their default rate for their CrossFit gym is $150. Their market rate in their area is $200 to $250. If you make $30,000 to $49,000 a year, they charge you $100. If you make more than that, they charge you $150. If you're 0 to 29,000, 2 to 4% of the annual income is what they charge you, with a minimum of $20 for the unemployed. Teens pay a third of what the adult rate would qualify for. They require proof of it, but they hardly check it, they said. And then they said some members pay an additional amount, most of them $50 on top of their membership to help subsidize for others. About 73% of their gym pay the standard fee, and then the other 25 are in varying degrees of that sliding membership. So it was unique hearing about that model, but super cool. I'm sharing it. I asked her if I could share it because, you know, it's thought-provoking in terms of how a gym might offer different models or different ways of essentially accommodating people of various on various levels of the economic spectrum, essentially. So it was really something that intrigued me hearing that. I want to talk to them more about it. I'll actually probably end up going and visiting the gym. She actually said Emily Beers did an article about the gym in April. Emily Beers also did an article about me and the CrossFit Games swim event that had a lot of errors in it, let's just say. So super cool on CrossFit or Tiltshift CrossFit. And thanks for sharing that with us, Chelsea, and thanks for letting me share that with my little audience. If you're ever in Seattle, check out this gym. I'm definitely going to try to check it out. And if you know any other affiliates who experiment with a model like this or do something similar, please let me know. Just more out of just being curious than anything else, because I do think it'd be cool to see more gyms trying this and just see what their success is with it. I'm not telling anyone to try it, but I just think it's a neat thing, that a creative way of pricing. Oh, I saw this. I meant to Google it. Actually, I'll pull it up right now. Craig Howard, who was actually on the call too, I went to his Instagram page at one point last week, and I saw him do a post about an individual who ran, here it is. Okay. Alexandr Sorokin smashes the 24-hour world record with 198 miles. So this dude ran 198 miles in 24 hours. Now, that's really impressive. But here's what the most impressive part of that is. That's a 7:15 minute pace for 24 hours for 198 miles. That's impressive. Imagine, go outside right now and run 3 miles at a 7:15 pace. Most of you probably can't do that, much less for 24 hours and completing 198 miles in 24 hours. I don't know who this Alexandr Sorokin is, but that's a very impressive effort, and I'm glad I saw this on Craig's Instagram page. He highlighted it. So congratulations to Alexandr Sorokin. This weekend, I went to Reno. I left for Reno on Friday, and I shot in 2 competitions. Saturday was a long-range gas gun match. So what that means is like an AR-style rifle. And I have a 6mm Creedmoor that JP Rifles built for me. And took third in that match. There's about 15, maybe 20 people. And happy with that. There was a couple stages where I made some mistakes. I actually think I could have performed a little better, maybe in that second place spot, maybe even the first place, but had fun there. And then Sunday was a long range match with my bolt gun, and that one went out to about 800 yards. At that match, I took fourth. I actually shot pretty good, shot well, but I think the competitor, well, not I think, the guys in front of me just shot really well. And so they've dropped very few rounds. There was a few misses I made where I was that I was unhappy with, but for the most part, my system, my gun, my shooting, everything was on, and it was a really good weekend to shoot and celebrate the success of just feeling good about all the equipment and about the effort. Saturday night, there was a level 1 in Carson City, and so I went down with Joe Alexander. Joe, we were in the teams together, and now he works for CrossFit. Actually, back in the day, I recruited Sherwood onto the level 1 training staff. So we were expanding and growing. I was working for Greg, and basically we needed to add more people on the team. And I knew Sherwood from Buds and being in the teams, and so called him up and said, "Hey, you want to try joining the training team?" And he said, "Absolutely." And very quickly put him in a leadership role. He eventually ended up recruiting Joe, and and I knew Joe at the teams, so hung out with him. We drove down to Carson City CrossFit and went to the level 1. It was really cool seeing the group. Everyone there was from that area, except one lady was from the Sacramento area. Chris McDonald and Miles Lewis were the staff, and I haven't seen them in a while. It was really good catching up with them. At the end, we went out to dinner with the 4 of us, the training staff, and had a good steak. But before that, at the end of the level 1, at the end of the day, they have a beer social. And so sat down with a number of the participants and had a beer. And what's interesting, when I used to go to level 1s, like in the Reebok days, I would always make a habit for just collecting the data of counting everybody's shoes and seeing what the distribution of shoes was amongst the attendees. So there was Reeboks back then, and Metcon, well, not back then, still Metcons. Noble wasn't around then, I don't think. Then I'd have a category for other, and then that's pretty much all the shoes. And I just see what the distribution of shoes was. In the very, very early on, it obviously is mostly Reeboks. Then later in their relationship, or as the Metcons became more popular, it's definitely skewed towards Metcons. So this one, I played that game again with just the people at the that were hanging out at the end of the seminar. And so there was about maybe 9 or 10 people, and in that group, I had them go around and say what shoes they were wearing and why. So the first person who came to was this lady, and she had on Noble, and her reason why was because they had flowers on them. And then it went through all the men, and so there was, call it 2 women in the audience and 9 men. All the men in this group, except for one, all the men in this group were wearing Reebok, and they were wearing a version of the Nano. Some had the recent Nano. One person had some like a 6 or 7 on, and then the other female in the group, she also had on Noble, and she said because she liked the way they looked, but also I think one of her the trainers at her gym might have helped her out getting them or something like that. And of the guys, the one guy that didn't have Reeboks on, he had on Under Armour, because Under Armour apparently gives a 40% off discount to veterans, and he was in the Army. So he had Under Armour, but everyone else had Reebok, and the 2 women had Noble. So that was fascinating just seeing. I actually didn't realize Reebok was still so common in our community. And I mean, that was just a small snapshot, right? I mean, it was just one seminar. So maybe they're not, but it was interesting seeing that distribution of shoes. That's it. Thanks for tuning in to the Week in Review. If you have any questions, or if you want to ask me about anything, or have something you want me to talk about next week, let me know in the comments. Thanks a lot.